Hello and welcome again to Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Excited about today's show. I'm pretty much excited about a lot of the shows, but a good friend on board here today, and the founder of Focus on the Five, which is a movement that, quite frankly, more people need to know about. Ken Coleman, thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you, Scott Schilling. Love you, buddy. Good to see you.
It's great to have you here, and always a lot of fun. So, give everybody your background a little bit and where Focus on the Five came from.
Sure, you bet. Well, I was raised six kids in Southwest Missouri, and I was in real estate at the age of 19, and spent 40 years still in the real estate business today. And I've loved it. It's been a great career for me. But one of the things that I discovered over that time, Scott, as you know, is I sold and closed over 6,000 personalities. People, actually more than that, double that, because it was families, actual deals. And you learn, when you close that many people, because I'm from the Branson, Missouri area. So there was a melting pot of people from all over America and around the world that came here and purchased properties here in Southwest Missouri. And I had to learn in a very short period of time, without being a pressure salesperson, how to communicate with them and get them to make a decision that made the best sense for them. And by the process of doing that, along with me being the personality that I am, I began to understand what the book Focus on the Five is about.
Well, that's awesome. So you wrote the book Focus on the Five. Did the movement really start pre that, or once the book was really out?
I think the movement's always been there. I think the movement started back many years ago, but hundreds of years ago. I just don't think people are conscious and they haven't really put a name on it. And I think that was the goal of Focus on the Five, was to actually not only put a name on a group of people that are doers and shakers, but also to create more of a get together and let's make a difference in this world.
So let's help everybody understand what Focus on the Five is. What are the 5%ers?
Well, 5%ers, that's exactly right. It's 5% of the human race. And I actually prayed for this. I went one day and said, you know what, God, talk to me, because I need a focus and a direction, that a purpose, if you will. I've been blessed to live 60 plus years. So now what do I do with this wisdom that you've given me? And he let me know right between the eyes. He said, write this book, Focus on the Five, and start gathering my people. And he actually, to me, he made the word chosen people. All of his people he loves, no question about it. But there is a group out there that are doers. They're born in the pit of their stomach with this thing that they know they're to be a part of something much bigger than themselves. And you're one of those people, Scott. You know what I'm talking about. We talked about that. Yeah. But the reality is that there is a group of people out there that are just driven. They just cannot give up. And so consequently, they don't fail eventually. They fail many times in between, but they keep going until they finally succeed and they get to where they're going. And I began to realize that there's a pattern of those people, and it actually is a very percentage of people. And I say 5%, it may be 4.6, it may be 5.2, but you get the point. 5% became, because here's the thing, fives don't want to be called anything, and they don't want to be put in any kind of a box. They don't want to be put in any kind of group over here. They like the fact that they are independent, they do their own thing, they make their own choices, make their own decisions. And so five's just 5%, but that's where the name come from. And that's the reason why we call it. And then the Focus on the Five is because here's the thing, you focus on fives, you're going to get huge return.
Yeah, that's something that you and I have talked about many times. And, it's exciting to see when you start to look at the definition, before reading the book and before really hearing the definition, you've lived it anyway. I mean, you've recognized it in the marketplace. You've recognized it in your work life. You've been around people who are those, you just don't have to tell them a whole lot. They'll go make it happen, right?
Absolutely. I teach in the book, and the book is written kind of to be a play. I've watched many motivational speakers over the years, and I'm a fan of many of them, including you, by the way. And I've watched them and I've thought, this is great. They get up on stage and they talk about different things, but wouldn't it be cool if we actually made the motivational speech in a play that was written based off of a short story? And that's what Focus on the Five was written, was based on that principle of 3 fives, one a young man, a medium-aged man, and an older man. and all three of them meet on a park bench. And most of the story takes place on a park bench. And it's how the story unfolds. And it teaches you about how fives become a five. They're actually born to be a five. It's in their DNA. And now, can you become a five without it being in your DNA? Yes, you can be a learned trait, but it's not instinctive. See, for true fives, it's instinctive. They can make a decision and a choice in a matter of seconds. It's just almost split seconds. In fact, they even sometimes make choices before they even happen, because fives have this ability to see ahead of the curve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know that we talked a lot about that. And it's intriguing because, like you say, they don't necessarily belong to a group, or there's not necessarily a name for them. And then when we started talking, it made a lot of sense. You certainly know who the people are that you don't have to give instruction to make something happen.
There's a guy
Just
by the
do
name
it.
of Bob Noble. He owns the third largest marketing company in the United States, Noble and Associates, out of Chicago. And he met me for lunch one day, and he pulled my book out and he laid it up on the table, and he says, "Would you autograph it?" And I said, "Sure." I mean, kind of blown away. And I said, "Sure, I'd be happy to." And he said, "Best marketing book ever written, Ken." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Old Dumb Hillbilly wrote a book that you think's impressive." And he said, "Ken," he goes, "you put in perspective what the early adopter is. You put into perspective what a risk taker is." He said, "That is marketing." And he said, "Here's the reality. Everyone's in the people business. I don't care who they are or what they do, they're in the people business. So reading this book is very valuable." And I'm not trying to push the book because, frankly, all the money gets donated to something. But the point is that it does teach you about who you are as a five and to recognize other fives. Because if you can find more fives in your life and you can surround yourself with fives, I promise you, this, it's going to change your life. It's going to rock your world.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I just finished a training less than an hour ago where I talked about you're the sum of your five closest associates, friends, people you hang around with, whatever. And, you can either find those with better behavior or less than better behavior, and obviously if you start to understand these things about the fives, again, it just is what it is. It's people who are those drivers that just make stuff happen. We'll figure out a model, right?
Well, they're infectious to be around. You're one of them. You're a good friend and a coach for Focus on the Five, which we appreciate that you do that. But the reality is that everybody's a coach for Focus on the Five. Everybody is that leader for God. That God. Fortunately, he didn't make everybody a five, because our world would be very imbalanced if he had it. But because we're the risk takers, we're the ones that says, "What the heck? Let's go do it." Think of it this way. You're going down a path and you got 50 people behind you, and you're out in the woods this summer and you're hiking and you're the leader. And all of a sudden you see off through the woods there a group of trees, and you're thinking, that's not where the path goes, but it sure looks inviting. And I just know there's something down that path that's really cool. But nobody's ever gone down that path. And all of a sudden you start going left down the path, and somebody yells out, "There's chiggers and there's ticks down there." And you go, "Yeah, well, I'll be back in a little bit, guys. You keep going down the normal path. I'll be back." That's a five. They can't help themselves. They love to be the ones to pioneer. It was designed that way. This world would not move forward if it wasn't for fives. There would be everything that happens, Scott. Everything that happens, everything made, everything built, everything that happens is generated from a five first. And that's truly the early adopter. And everybody else then follows. The average five has about 500 to 1,000 people that follow them. And that's average. There's people like you that has a lot more than that. But you get my point.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating to think through all that. And again, you live through, I was very blessed to play, high level college sports, but all the other sports, you find the natural leaders rise to the top. When they're called upon, the leadership is there. It's not like they've studied it. There's something inherent to what they've done. Maybe it's that they've played sports at a high level or things like that. They've taken those risks and taken those chances going along from that side. So what kind of things are going on with the Focus on the Five movement today?
So Focus on the Five definitely has a big vision, because we are fives. And it's a large group of people that says, well, what if we did this and what if we do that? So Focus on the Five, to identify what it is it's a marketing company. And somebody said, who all belongs to the marketing company? And I was talking to a 5, and I said, you belong to the marketing company. I said, everybody belongs to the marketing company that's a 5, because Focus on the 5 is about organizing 5s to become a part of something much bigger than ourselves, so that we can make a difference in this world, create a soft place to land for other 5s. So we're involved in charity. We're involved in the 18 different categories of industry. We basically are reaching out to people that says, you know what, I want to be a part of helping the future 5s to grow, because that's what built our country. You know that. 55 guys signed the Constitution of the United States, and they wrote that Constitution. It was written for 5s. It was written so that our country would always be safe and secure, encouraging 5s from all over the world to come to this land and be the ones that. Now, I will say this. I do feel that God said to me that the 5s have been taking a back seat lately, that we've been paying attention more to what social media says and what the popular vote says. And he's asking us to get out of the back seat and get back in the driver's seat, because that's our role. Our role is to drive and have a voice and to say what we think. And I appreciate that you do. And I appreciate you have your show, because that's what it's about, is taking that leap forward, that leap of faith, and saying, hey, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make some things happen. I'm going to focus on 5s, and I'm going to bring them to the forefront and give them a voice. And I appreciate that you're doing that, and get a chance to even talk about Focus on 5. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I totally, I'm honored that you're here and that we can have this conversation and do this. I think it's one of the things that I've shared in other shows. And I think that my platform really is to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. And that takes some leadership to do that. You have to get past it. And I think the other thing is the one thing that is very consistent with the 5s that I know is, although we're big thinkers, many are not thinking big enough, or got into a period of not thinking big enough. And I think we've now been through some challenges that are so big, we better wake up and band together, don't you think?
Well, I definitely do. I think that it's a gift that we're given as 5s. That's wisdom. If we get to grow old enough, we have a lot of wisdom. But here's the reality. I believe our purpose on earth as 5s is to give back to the community. That's what leaders do, is to give back to the community. And you and I have talked about that a lot. And I appreciate that you're that type of person. But that's 5's role. I believe that strongly, is to give back to the community. Well, here's the reality. You have talents. I have talents. All 5s have different kinds of talents.
Right.
A lot of it's communication. But what if we work together? If we work together for the greater good, think of the things that could be accomplished. That's when they wrote the Constitution of the United States. That was 55 of some of the best businessmen in the country. And they wrote a piece of paper that's lived on to this day. And that's the Constitution of the United States. And get this, 38 of them were pastors. These were men of God. So, I think that was the blueprint, if you will, of where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to be doing today at this time. We're not so much pastors anymore. We've moved into the business world, because the society seems to respect money and power and position. And you and I both know, and 5s know, that the true 5s of the world know down deep, it's not about the money. It's not about the position. It's not about the power. It's about giving back. It's about family. It's about faith. It's about our time, using our time wisely, because as we get older, we know that time becomes extremely valuable. But the 4th one is relationships. Yeah. I mean, we all want to build more relationships, because that gives us more money to donate to our favorite charities. It allows us to have the security for our families. And the best place to focus relationships on, I'm telling you, is other 5s. So, I'd love for people to come and join us on Facebook, Focus on the 5 movement. It's Focus on the 5 group, and just let us know you're there and start listening to it.
Yeah, that's why I love doing the show, and I love the way we're able to do the show, because quite frankly, we can have more people do shows. I think that there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of people suggesting certain things that may or may not be so good for people going forward, right? And whereas I think that we can have conversations like this to give them some guidance, or to take some guidance. Again, I love when you get a group of 5s together. That's a true mastermind in my eyes, right? That you can really handle from each person's experience, Napoleon Hill said a mastermind is when two or more minds come together to make a third and greater mastermind. Just think of
Yeah.
all that experience coming together at one time.
Yeah, somebody asked me the other day, it's exactly right. They said, Ken, isn't this kind of like Think and Grow Rich? And I said, yeah, but the thing about Think and Grow Rich is it was a very few people that they wrote the book about. I said, the truth is that book has related to so many people over the years. So Focus on the Five is really about all of those people. It's not about just a group of them. It's about all of them. And they're all out there making a difference in the world and in society and in life. It doesn't matter whether they own a trash company or a funeral home or a podcast group. They're all in their own way giving back to society. And for me, I think that the key word is choices with Focus on the Five. It's the study of choices and how we make choices, right? We can make good ones, we can make bad ones. Sometimes we make bad ones even when we think we're making good ones, but we learn from those. That's the key
Yes.
of a five. Five learns from those and doesn't give up. That's the really big factor about a five. They have this need to say, okay, in fact, they're not scared to fail because they see failure as that's just one step closer to getting to where my goal is. And they also know it's not about the finish line. It's about lined up at the finish line, at the starting line, and looking over at the people next to them and saying, wow, these are people that's like-minded like me that are racing the same race. That's really, it's the relationships that matters. It's not the finish line.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Again, in that same training that I was just doing, I said there is no failure, at least in my mind. Failure is only a four-letter word called quit. Everything else is simply a learning experience. And if you're going through all these different things, and again, I never thought of it as because of being a five. I just thought of it because that's what I've always done, right? You've been raised in working to maximize every situation, so everything becomes a learning opportunity. And rinse, wash, rinse, repeat. Go do it just a little bit differently, right?
Absolutely. Well, I know something about your background, your football background, and I was talking to an NFL player here the other day, and he said, well, how do you know I'm a five? Just like that, Ken, how do you know I'm a five? And I said, well, that's a given. I said, in high school, I said, did you ever get tackled? And he goes, he was a right tackle. And he said, well, yeah. I said, did you ever get up in the same play and then go tackle the quarterback? And he goes, yeah. I said, did you ever have that happen to you a lot in high school? He said, almost every play. He said, because I went on to college. And I said, and then when you went to college, let me ask you, did you ever get tackled and fall down and then get back up and make the tackle of the quarterback in the same play? And he said, well, yeah, quite a few times. And I said, then what happened? He goes, well, I went on to pro. And I said, see, that's a five. Fives just don't give up. I said, I doubt there was a big difference between you and your other players when you started in high school. The big difference between you and them was you didn't give up. You took your bumps, you took your bruises, you took the pain, but you believed that beyond everything else, that you are on a mission to become a part of something bigger than yourself. And that was the NFL. And he got little tears in his eyes. He said, wow, he goes, I didn't know anybody really knew that about me. And I said, that's just what a five is.
Right.
That's the life of a five. And we do feel a little crazy sometimes. In fact, we feel pretty weird because growing up right now, today, Scott, little boy growing up as a five, you know what they do? They give them a drug.
They try to calm them down.
They try to calm them down because they don't know what to do with them because they're only 5% of the human race.
Well, and I think that's a shame because the creativity and curiosity. I think one of the things that we've lost is the art of creating curiosity and being curious on our own. So, what kind of how can we help that going forward to kids like that today?
Well, that's the beauty of this is that Focus on the Five is developing. And so what we ask is to get involved in the movement, be a part of the movement. And that starts by joining Focus on the Five. Go to focusonthefive.com. Just sign up, be a part of us. I don't care who you are. If you know you're five, you're self-diagnosed as a five, I suggest get the book, read the book. We're doing a lot of interviews of fives around the country so that we can educate the rest of the world on what a five is and what they look like. Because here is the reality. There is children out there right now today that are saying, you know what, I think I feel a little weird because my mom and dad are not fives. And they're telling me that I need to fit in, that I need to just buckle down and be in school and learn from a textbook but I don't want to learn from a textbook. I'm a visual learner. I like to make things happen. My head's already out of school. It's already left here. And, so we need to be the role models for those future fives. That's first and foremost. Second is we need to communicate with each other. We need to get together more as fives. Fives have a tendency to do this because we're on a mission, because we're surrounded by 95% that says, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't be doing that. And so you have a tendency to build a little wall around you to get accomplished what you need to get accomplished. And I get that because I've been that person my whole life. You understand that. So
Yeah.
you need to get around.
I definitely, well, I mean, I was thinking about that from the standpoint of because you tend to, as a five, you tend to, again, there's no excuses, there's no failure, there's no this, there's no that. So you got to go no matter what, right? And not everybody has that same opinion. So therefore they don't crowd around you. And so your crowd becomes you sometimes, right? So but again, that's why I really respect the movement from the standpoint of if it's actually a big part of the Be Connected project that I'm involved in now, creating a global community of kind of lone wolves that are finding a pack of lone wolves, right? You've been a lone wolf for a long time, but now all of a sudden you find a pack that's like you and you go, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Just think if we could collaborate, just think if we could cooperate, if we could work together to solve these big issues that all of a sudden the world is facing.
So we are planning to do some events coming up that you will probably be at, and other people like you, other fives. We're planning one in Austin, Texas, one in Destin, Florida, one in LA, one in Branson, Missouri, where I'm at, so that fives can come and we can network and we can build on what this movement is. We also are working on some very special developments tied to real estate, especially on the very elite fives, the ones that have reached that billionaire and $30 million plus status. Because here's the reality: you get them behind this, and big things can happen much faster. That's why it's called Focus on the Five. Because if you'll focus your energy on that five, then we can make things happen. We can change the world. Most of the world believes that kids should all get trophies in sports. Well, fives don't believe that. Not one five believes that. No. They believe that you need to earn it. It's about the going for it. It's about the trying. It's about the failure. It's all of those things that make up us becoming better people and becoming the people who accomplish these great things. You can walk in any library in the country. I walked into Barnes and Noble with my daughter 2 days ago, who happens to be a five and owns her own marketing company, works from home, takes care of her kids. It's the biggest marketing company in the marketplace, typical five. But we walked into Barnes and Noble and she went over, she picked up a book and she opened it and she says, "Wow, Dad, here's a five." And I kind of laughed. I said, "Tricia, everybody in this room's a five. Every book written is about five." I said, they don't write books about non-fives. They write them about fives because they have a story. They live 3 to 4 to 5 times more life than the average person because they do so much more in the course of a day. Their bodies are usually wore out towards the end of their life, but they live life, and which is pretty cool.
No, I think it's really cool because, again, I think, to go back to the thing, I played 5 sports. My daughter played 5 sports. My son played 2. But the difference of what you learn through sports, you do things well, you don't do things so well. A coach yells at you, you learn how to process a coach yelling at you. But then somewhere inherently you strive, you utilize that information to become better. This creating everybody's the same and all that. There's a yin and a yang. There's at least two different categories, the yin and the yang, right? Now we can go in and debate whether there's more than that or whatever. And it's not a judgmental thing. It's just it's a thing. There are people, I love doing this, there are people that I almost can't get on a show because they're afraid of sharing an opinion. And here, this is just fun to me, and talking to friends and being able to hear their opinions. So how do we help educate people on the Focus of the Five movement and or any of the projects that are going on along with it?
Well, the easiest way is to stay in touch with the group. And the group right now is we just started this Facebook group because it seems to be the easiest way for people to stay connected. It dings them on their phone. They can input stuff. We put all kinds of cool, positive things on there that are from fives. So it's a way to start touch. It's also a way to network with fives because you can reach out to a five and you know that everybody on that site pretty much is a five. It's funny, every once in a while we lose somebody on the site and they'll put on there, I don't think I'm a five, and they'll get off of it, which is fine with us because we really just want to surround ourselves with like-minded people in fives. Also, go to focusonthefive.com. On that site, you can purchase one of the books. They're not very expensive. They're a short read. They're only 100 pages, but it'll help to define. I tell you, one of the things that's very valuable is being able to walk into a room, and I can do this, and I teach this, and spot fives in the room, just literally from walking in the room. From across the room, you can spot them. Just based off their personalities, based on their actions, based on their intensity of positivity. They just talk with more energy. Everything they do is with more direction and more energy. So one of the things too, I just want to mention, it's been something that's really been in the forefront of Focus on the Five recently, and that is fives by their nature need to be loved more than the average person. They're not only are they not 5%, they have this unbelievable need to be accepted socially and to be loved, and that's difficult. It's kind of funny because here we are, risk takers, and we're out there doing these things that everybody doesn't approve of, and at the same time we're saying, yeah, but we want everybody to accept us and know us for who. So it's kind of it makes it tough for us, and many of fives end up being divorced, unfortunately, because they don't marry another five. I believe that's the case. I think that's easiest to understand a five if you are a five, or at least if your parent, if you had somebody directly in your life that had a big influence on you as a five, because fives are difficult. I mean, let's face it, we're not easy to live with because we're, squirrel, it's just, that's just the nature of, we love shiny objects. So, but anyway, join the movement, get a part of it. There are some really cool things that we're doing. I don't want to go into it with this show because we go down a rabbit hole, but there's some really cool things that we're already doing. And main thing is just start becoming, I know fives are busy and by their nature. So they say, well, man, I don't want to get involved in any organization or group. You're asking me to do things. Actually, it'll just be doing what you already do. It's just participating at what you're already a professional at. I'll just say that and leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. I think those that this resonates with, I would encourage you, go ahead and go to the Facebook page and, connect with Ken, connect with me, connect with just so many great people on there, because there is this desire to, in fact, I saw it posted somewhere today, you playing small does not do the world any good. It's the opposite, right?
Be the five you were born to be. That's the important thing.
Yeah, be the five that you were born to be, and go ahead and be that leader along the way. The one thing in the group, there are just some amazing people, and that's, again, my career has been about developing relationships, nurturing those relationships, growing them over time, and no linear response to it, right? You meet people because you like to meet them. You don't meet them because there's something, that you're going to get from it down the road. So
you're so typical of a five that fives typically are always givers, but first and foremost. And you're also, when you and I first met, it was stuck out about you. So like a neon light over your head, which, by the way, I think I have one, but the point is that all fives come from a place of faith. They have an unbelievable faith. They were born with that faith. It's like a safety net, if you will, that they just know is there. That's why they can take the risks they do. That's why they have this best friend with them, and that's called faith. They just know somehow I'm going to land on all fours. I may have to put some Band-Aids on. I may have to put a cast on. But I'll get through it. A little pain, no gain, right?
That's right.
And fives inherently know that. It's just something, literally, as a little child, they know that that's. I tell a story about 20 kids standing on a playground, and there's two little boy and little girl standing there, and they're all about 8 years old. And the little girl looks over at the little boy and she says, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" The little boy said, "Yeah, I'm thinking what you're thinking." And so the little boy turns to the other 18 and starts to explain to them what they're talking about. And next thing they know, they're all yelling, don't do that, don't do that. The little girl goes up a telephone pole that's there on the playground that has a wire coming off of it. She throws her sweater over it, and they're all yelling, you're going to break your leg. You can't. Mom and dad says, don't do that. Are you stupid? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? And she doesn't even hardly hear them. She hears them just enough to go, I'm doing this. Ain't no turning back now, because they're telling me I can't do it. I'm going to show them I can do it. Watch me. Just watch me do it. And so a few seconds later, she slides down the wire. At the end, she sprains her ankle. And they're all going, I told you so. I told you so. And she's got a grin on her face, big as life. She doesn't even feel the pain of the ankle. Because why? Because she's a 5. She can't help herself. That's who she is. That was who she was born to be. There was a guy put on the planet years ago, and he was born with this thing in the pit of his stomach, becomes part of something bigger than himself. And he told people what his plan was. And they said, man, you're going to die for that. You better not be doing that. I mean, they'll put you on a cross and nail your hands. And he said, I can't help it. That's who I am. What I got to do. It's just, I mean, I can't, it's a part of me. So he went out and found 12 other guys like him. One of them was a fisherman, a carpenter, all walks of life.
Yep.
I believe that was the blueprint of how to become a 5. So I would encourage you, if you're a 5, write your book, especially if you're over the age of 50 years old. Yeah. Write your book about how you became a 5. In fact, write that book to the 8-year-old version of yourself. Blueprint, if you will, how to become a better version of you. And we will help promote that. Scott will, and I will. We'll all, 5s from all over the country will help you promote your book, because that message needs to get out to the next generation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ken. We're up against the time. Really appreciate it. Just
thank you, buddy.
When we're talking, and so look forward to having everybody come back to Scott Schilling Speaks daily, 12:30 Central Standard Time. Always have great guests like Ken Coleman. Ken, thanks for joining me.
Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Soon. See you, man. Bye-bye.